In today's video, I'm going to do a very non-technical explanation of some key terms associated with involuntary resettlement. And I'm going to do it in the most non-technical way I know how. All right, so let's give this a go. So what are some of the key terms associated with involuntary resettlement? Well, we have to start with eminent domain. Okay. So I'm going to do this kind of a global approach to this. Most countries within their legislative frameworks have the power of eminent domain somewhere. Now, it is the power of the state or the country, the state, to take land. Usually it has to be for a project of national or state importance. There's usually some sort of parameters around the instances where a country can use its powers of eminent domain, but somewhere within its legislative framework, it will have the powers of eminent domain. Now, the second term that we need to understand is negotiated settlement. Okay, negotiated settlement. Okay, so negotiated settlement is where there's a willing buyer and a willing seller. So it sounds a bit complicated, but a willing buyer and willing seller arrangement would be similar to that if you wanted to sell your land and you listed it with a real estate agent. Someone wanted to buy it. You would negotiate on the price, potentially. That's a willing buyer and a willing seller. Similarly, with negotiated settlement, there's a negotiation between that willing buyer and the willing seller on the price, and they ultimately come to an agreed settlement. Okay, so let's do a couple of little examples now. We can understand this. So let's say infrastructure type projects, let's do an energy project, substations. So the Ministry of Energy and let's say the Department of Public Works is who's rolling this out. They need to build some energy substations. Okay, so we've got a valley, and when they look at the location, they can see there's potentially multiple places that they could put these substations, potentially quite large, half a hectare or something. But they have a look and they say, okay, we could put it there, we could put it here, we could put it over there, maybe one more here. So there's multiple locations. And they decide, okay, we can use a negotiated settlement approach to acquiring the land for these substations. So they go, and this is farmland and they're different farmers. So they go to the first farmer and they say, we would like to buy your land. Here's the price. And they say, no, I'm not. I don't want to sell. I've been here for generations. We don't want to sell our land. And they say, no. They go to the next one. We'd like to buy this property, a certain amount of your farmland. Are you willing to sell? They say no. So they've got the option to refuse. Yes? Okay, they come to the next one. We would like to buy your land. This is the price. And the person says, well, I might be willing to sell, but I want this price. And there's a negotiation. And with this one, they've come to a settlement. So for this, we could call it a negotiated settlement approach. Okay, so what about a different scenario where we don't know if we can use multiple locations? All right, so let's do a road. Now, in some instances, the alignment of the road can be adjusted, but in some cases, it cannot. It'd be very, very expensive to do so. So let's say we've got our road, and it's a road of state importance. It has to be of national importance or something along those lines. Public goods, whatever the parameters were. So we've got plot A, B, and C. Now, let's say farmer A is willing to negotiate and sell his land, but plot B, he is not. Now, we cannot then go all the way up like that. Maybe if it was a bigger arc, it might be possible. But in a lot of cases, an alignment change like that would be incredibly costly and potentially not possible. So in these types of cases, the powers of eminent domain are then used. And this person, they'll use the powers of eminent domain. So these people will not have the right to refuse. So they will be displaced from their land if they're living on there, or they will have to give up their land and the government will take it for the public good of building that particular road. Now, in each jurisdiction and in each country, if they're using the powers of eminent domain in these types of circumstances, then there's a detailed process that then happens to compensate and what the compensation prices are and the valuations, all of that sort of thing. That's more into the weeds. There is a big process that happens, but this would be a very simplified explanation of involuntary resettlement because there is no right to refuse. So involuntary resettlement where there is the use of eminent domain. Okay, so there's two concepts that we use when we're talking about involuntary resettlement. And these are the first two things that I teach when I'm running courses on involuntary resettlement. So if there are other topics in this area that you would like explained really, really simply, please drop something into the comments. My name is Risha Hartley-Jones. I'm an anthropologist and social development specialist. I've been working in impact assessments over 16 years now and involuntary resettlement 10 plus years, a decade now as well. I hope you got something out of today and follow along for easy, simple explainers.